What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dennis and Andy show. Don't adjust your clocks. It's not 3:30. No, it is 2 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're on the West Coast, well, it's not even noon yet. It's not even lunchtime yet. Grab an early lunch. Sit down and watch us for the next hour. We are here. Richard Steinke's in the chat. Randy Howell, what is up? More people will be coming in. Thank you all for watching and joining us. We have a fun guest today. You might have noticed Dennis is not sitting next to me live like he usually does. And I'm telling you guys, I'm finally putting my foot down. I'm like, look, you shower before you come over here or don't come over. And you can see the result. Stinky Puss does not want to shower and come over.
Yeah, he told me to shower. So you know what I said?
That's right. He said, I prefer a bath with bubbles and a loofah. And I said, whatever, queen. He likes to have his little tray that goes across the bathtub that has a little wine glass holder and a little book easel and stuff. When he kicks
I've got
back.
Somebody feeding me grapes over my shoulder, the big fan just waving it. I've got it all. Why would I want to go over to Andy's house? Look at that. Why be stuck around? Well, I can't say comics because I'm in the same boat here, but hey, why shower?
Dennis, we all know that you don't have people feeding you grapes and fanning you anymore. Once you stop being a Boy Scout leader, those little boys had to move on.
Wow. Well, at least you didn't bring up altar boys, so I guess I'll leave that.
Well, I mean, you left the church long ago. God forbid you walk into a church, you'd burst into flames. Like in Sinners, when the vampire saw sunlight. That's you walking into a church.
Still a good movie.
It is a good movie. It is a good movie. But we have a great, dare I say, guest. This guy, first, he's a comic creator, then a comic book publisher. And you're like, okay, what's he going to do as an encore? He's like, I tell you what, I'm buying a printer and I want to be a comic book printer now. That's what I want to do.
I think he bought an entire block. Look at that, just to fill it up with printing stuff.
I know. Peter Simeti is now going to become a comic book printer, Newsprint Comics. I can't believe Newsprint Comics wasn't even taken. That's amazing. Unless you've been sitting.
I couldn't believe it either. I was like, let me just get, I wanted something really direct, you know, and right. I thought I'm only going to be printing Newsprint Comics. So I figured, check it out. And I was like, wow, it's available.
It's not a .org or .ca or any of that.
No, yeah. So newsprintcomics.com. That's how forgotten they are, though. It's
true.
a shame.
Well, you're going to make it a comeback. And then the next thing you know, next time you check, it'll be like, you could sell newsprintcomics.com for $10,000. And Pete's going to go, you know what? .org's not bad. Sold.
That's true. Yeah. I could do that. Yeah. We'll see.
So you've been here before. People know who you are. You're a man around town. So we'll just dive right in. What the hell got this? I know you print your books on newsprint. You're that rare bird. They look great and stuff. And what was it? Were you just like, you know what? My life's not stressful enough. Let me
it's always
what's the story?
I think I got 5 minutes today, Why not?
That might be a joke, but actually I was thinking the same thing. When Andy sent me, he goes, hey, here's his current one. And I was like, how does he got time for that? With all the other things on his plate, he's actually becoming a printer. I used to work for a very large printer, so I kind of know what's involved. And I know it's not to that scale, but still, that's a lot of moving parts. So I was like, I really couldn't wait to actually talk to you about this. So what brought this on? I'm so curious.
Honestly, the technology has evolved a lot over the past 5 to 6 years, even. To really make this possible without having to purchase like a $50,000 to $70,000 print shop type printer. Sure. And especially the systems involved for those. It's a huge piece of machinery and they're very expensive. Now, this stuff is still expensive. It's more expensive than I could just flat out afford, because it's not just like go buy a printer. You got to buy generally at least 2 printers, because you got to up that production time. Then you got to buy everything else to assemble the book. So you got to get the folding machine, the stack cutter, paper trimmers. There's so many other things involved. Like you said, there's a lot of moving parts with it, that it's not just like printing the paper. If anything, printing the paper is kind of the easiest part. You just assemble the file, put it there, and then the printer takes care of the rest. But the biggest thing that made me start to do this was about 2 years ago, we started having a lot of problems with various things going on with the newsprint printing. And the printers were always great about handling a lot of stuff, like when there were problems. But the problems kept mounting and getting more worrisome, and losing, sometimes 20 to 25% of a run to damages, both to when the printer ships them. So, and they would handle it and take care of it, but it was like I'm losing books in the process. So the latest thing that had occurred that really kind of set this in motion was, it was a 2-part thing. So the newsprint printer was increasing their prices. I had noticed that on the King Cryptid run compared to the previous 4 issues. So King Cryptid 5 to 9 costs almost a double amount to make compared to 1 to 4, and it was a very relatively similar size print run.
Okay.
So that really had me worried. Then getting like 25% of them damaged, that had me worried.
Now, is that because they just pack like shit, or what?
They sometimes, like, these guys did a little too much. And on this one specifically, I told them about the problems that were happening with how they were packing them and sending them to me. Because on one time they had a misprint that went really, really bad. And one of the, like, whatever it is, I don't know how it occurred. They didn't really go into full detail. But a couple of the pages got splattered with red ink.
Right.
And that was a nightmare. That was like 400 copies of a run. That it was just, and it was really crazy because it was a black and white book, but yet it was like someone got murdered in the press is what it looked like. And so they made it right, but I'm still out of 400 copies. So what had happened on this previous one that we lost like 25% of the books to damages was I had told them to pack the boxes so that they were actually full, because when they would pack boxes, sometimes they'd be like a quarter of the way full. And sometimes whoever's putting them together, for whatever reason, I think it's because whatever's off the line last, they put them on the bottom. And so like you get these quarter filled boxes on the bottom of the stack of like 2,000 pounds of books. And by the time we got them, boxes would be crushed. The thing would be kind of tilted. And I'm like, we're getting a lot of boxes would even be split open sometime. And I said, put the full boxes, like, it doesn't matter, just pack them full. So they did that. But what they ended up doing, and I told them specifically not to do this, because especially with Newsprint Comics, you're going to get a lot of damages this way as it moves around. They shrink wrapped them in like bundles of 25, and they shrink wrapped them loosely too. So what happens is, as they were moving around in transit, even though it was coming on a pallet through freight, they were moving around and kind of creating like a plate tectonic thing going on.
Oh, yeah.
So they were kind of getting all destroyed just from that little bit of movement. And then sometimes they'd be shrink wrapped too tight, so they would crunch in the corners.
Sure.
And I was like, don't do that. You guys have never done that before. Don't do that. And then they went and did it.
So, when they shrink wrapped them, did they band wrap them first, or it would go through and it would put a plastic strap around it and then shrink wrap it, or was it just shrink wrapped loosely?
It was shrink wrapped loosely, but I also don't want them to have bands around it, because we had that happen one time with the printer and it digs into the book.
Oh, yeah, that's totally, especially newsprint type stuff. Like, if it's a heavy book, 64-page square bound like what we do, they don't band them anyhow, but they don't shrink wrap them either. They put like, I don't know, say 50 in a box, but they're tight.
But they're tight, yeah. And then you pack material around and that's it. You don't have to go crazy with it. And that's what they did for a long time. And I was like, just fill the boxes. Everything else you guys are doing, we worked out the kinks, it's fine. But then this one, they went ahead and shrink wrapped it. And I said, because they said we can shrink wrap them too in bundles of whatever for you. And I was like, don't do that. Definitely don't. It's going to cause a lot of damages. And they did it. So when those arrived, there were damages based off of that. It was like I said, 20 to 25% of the entire run of books was damaged. And so that compounded with having 400 less of a previous run because of the misprint, I went ahead and I started looking into, well, do we have to leave newsprint because the pricing is starting to get too high now for what our print runs are. And I'm looking into other stocks that are kind of similar, other uncoated off-white cream, kind of stocks to still get that look of newsprint in some way. And those paper stocks are very expensive now too. But I figured, let me try an on-demand like digital printer that seems like they know what they're doing. They print comics a lot. I'm not going to name names about it because I don't have anything nice to really say.
Sure.
But I went with them and we did a small run, just like I think a little less than 100, and it came back and there were the usual problems with the print on demand digital book where it like bows out in the middle and like it's not folded properly and it's just kind of like a copy press, copy center job.
Wow.
But there were problems with the actual files in and of themselves where like the text was rasterized and weird, like they don't have the proper equipment, or maybe they're not using PostScript on the printer, whatever it may be, that it's not ripping the file properly to actually print correctly. And they gave me this whole thing about how many of these things aren't possible. You can't do it on this paper stock. You can't do it with digital printing. They can't do it with this printer. Like they had an excuse for everything. Went back and forth for a few days. And I had said that, I got a paper sample pack from you guys and it printed fine. Like you guys obviously have the stuff to do it. Why didn't it do it? And they're like, oh, well, that's because your book's black and white. And we used a nice printer for the covers and for that sample pack. But we didn't use that for the interior on the black and white book. And I was like, so you used an inferior printer to print these things are like $3 a piece for black and white.
Yeah. Sure.
And they said it's not inferior. I was like, well, you just said the other printer's better.
Right.
So that means
it's implied.
Yeah. It's not like a moral referendum on the printer. It's just like, one's better than the other. That means the one that isn't as good as the other is inferior.
Right.
And they didn't like the wording on that, even though it was like let's argue
you said it
about it. Yeah. So there's all these things and I got fired up about it. And for whatever reason, I cut up an old page out of one of the Alterna newsprint books and I put it through the printer I have at home, which is just like an old 10-year-old Epson something.
Yeah.
It's just a little $50 printer from a long time ago.
Sure.
And I was surprised it actually worked. It printed on it and it was fine. I was like, okay, well, it's a one-off. Let me go out and get some newsprint paper. Like I got a pad of newsprint paper, and
you mean just like a pad and newsprint from the art store? That
yeah. It's very similar paper stock to what we print on as it is. So I put it through, and it printed fine. Everything just kept going, page after page after page. No print jams, no nothing. And so it started to actually look good. So good that I ended up putting like a little mini book of it together because I don't have a full size printer at the time.
So that is not off the printer you bought, but just your Epson
this is
one
off of my old 10-year-old printer.
Really? Wow. And that's just newsprint paper you bought from the store.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that looks pretty good.
And then the cover I just printed at Staples because we're going to outsource our covers to a commercial printer that's local.
Oh, right.
That's actually giving me a really good deal on covers, better than me getting like a $1,700, $2,000 laser color printer thing.
Sure.
And going that route. So it makes way more sense for me to have them do it. They can take care of it. It saves me a machine. It saves me space. It saves me time. I could just pick it up. It's an hour away. So I figured, let me replicate what they're going to do with their paper stock. It's a very similar paper stock. I'll just go to Staples, get the cover printed just to have like a presentable little mini comic thing.
Yeah.
So these are exact replicas of King Cryptid 1 and 2 in the mini.
Cool.
Now I do have the standard printer to print the larger stuff. So I'm doing test prints and all of that before I put together a full-fledged book to show everyone. I'll probably have that like next week. So I put that through, I put it together, I stapled it and everything. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And then the best part is that, the things lay flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no big giant, in the middle there.
Right.
And I printed a coverless one on the new printer. Same thing, lays flat. This is
what's
black and white.
I guess what I don't even know what weight is newsprint, or I guess there's different
This,
weights. Like,
yeah, this is 35 pound,
okay,
but it's different though because like weight for paper is all over the place. So you could have bond, text, cover, like they're all over the place. And
yeah.
if you don't know, like GSM, like gram per square meter, is a little bit easier to tell because the number will just keep going up, as
Mhm.
opposed to you can just bounce around with like you'll hear 20-pound copy paper and think like, oh, that must be even thinner than newsprint, but it's actually a 50-pound in terms of text weight, whereas
Oh,
newsprint is like probably closer to like a 14-pound but 35-pound text weight.
right.
Just like all over the it'll drive you nuts. They got all these different like paper weight scale
Oh no,
measurement things
yeah,
out
yeah,
there,
yeah.
you know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh god. So and before I want to say before I did all this with Alterna, 19 years of making comics, I worked at 3 different print shops, 2 copy centers. I mean, 2
Oh,
sign
okay.
centers, and 2 sign shops, and a copy center.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'm kind
Yeah.
of used to, yeah, I'm like a degree graphic designer, so all of this is kind of like riding a bike again.
Sure.
But in terms of assembling everything, that's what pissed me off when they said that you can't do that, because I'm thinking like we did that in the print shops I worked at. Like, what are you talking about? you
Right.
know, so it's like it's one thing if they can't do it, but they flat out told me it's impossible. No digital printer is going to print it that way. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be. And I'm thinking like, wow, that's really crazy that you're trying to tell people that, because it's one thing I have my own limitations. We all do, but I have limitations of what I could do printing these books. So if someone requests a certain thing, like some people have asked for like hard covers or perfect bound, am I going to do different stocks? No, I'm not gonna, but I'm not gonna say that's impossible. No one can print the hardcover book.
Right.
Like
Of
that
course.
sounds absurd.
Yeah.
So if they were to just say that they don't have the capabilities to do that, I would get it. But that's what kind of really put me in a fervor when they were like, that's impossible. No
Wow.
one can do that.
So you print your covers somewhere else. You print out all your interior
So we'll do the
pages.
interiors here. Yeah.
Then you have like a mini stitchery or something where you just put them
Yep.
out there and it puts them. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the part where we're coming up on the next mini goal. I think we're like $1,007 away or something from the next mini goal, which is a pretty big one because that enables me to get the stack cutter, to get a bunch of them all together, like 10 to 15, maybe 20 copies at a time, trim them all. So that
Oh, okay.
really saves a lot of time instead of, one at a time with a paper trimmer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to have a manual creaser. So this way, in case we don't make it to the 12,500 mini goal, which is to get the automatic folding machine, if we
Oh, right.
don't get it to that, at least this will help me cut some time down if I have to manually assemble them. Because that's the thing too. Like if we don't make it to certain marks on the campaign, I can't justify getting that machinery because
Sure.
we just don't have the amount of books to justify that, the work coming in for the printer.
Sure.
But if we do get to that point, then yeah, I'm going to need that stuff. So this next one, I can get the paper trimmer. I can get all kinds of replacement parts. I can get supplies. I can get extra boxes and staples and ink and all that kind of stuff too. And we had a second mini goal, which was to get the mini comics printer, a dedicated printer just for that. But I had such a really good deal on another standard size printer that'll do both mini and the full size comics that
Oh,
I
right.
just
Yeah.
went ahead and just got that. So now I have 2 printers that can do standard size and mini, and we can just get up and running, and then that'll cut production time a lot. Doing
Now I'm
those
curious
runs.
with the printers you're getting, do they only do newsprint, or you could do other paper? But
I
you're
could do other paper. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
so
I could.
does it make sense though? So I guess my question is, if they do other paper, it wouldn't make sense for you to do the covers too in house.
Can't do the covers the way they need to get done. The
Oh, okay.
covers that we need to get done, I need to get a separate machine for that to utilize that system properly. Otherwise, you're going to have
Oh,
covers being printed that either the worst case scenario, they don't really ever dry. The ink always
oh,
just sits there on the cover stock.
Oh,
right.
Or what happens is you got to get specialty paper that's like really way too thick to make sense
Oh,
for like a
okay.
newsprint comic. So it'll be
Sure,
kind of
sure.
like, and you can't fold it because you also got to think about, this is something that we don't think about when we're putting comics together because we don't print them, we send them off to people who do. But there's a difference between long grain and short grain printer paper. So with the short grain paper, that's usually pretty good for book binding. You can fold it easier. It's not going to be so tough. It's not going to have that resistance that fights against that. When you open it up, it'll actually flop like a comic would, or any kind of book like that. But with the long grain, it's going to be folded a different way. It's literally what the phrase of like against the grain, that kind of thing. You want to work with the grain, and this way with the grain of the paper, you actually have that nice, easy to assemble kind of thing going on. So you got to make sure you're getting certain kinds of papers, but most papers that are sold aren't really made available to have that happen. You got to get like specialty paper for that. And then cover paper, you'd have to use on a different printer press. Like you could do it. You could have like an upgraded paper, but it's not going to be the paper I want to get. It's not going to be that nice, like a glossy, a kind of, or even a satin finish to it. You're going to have to settle for something else. So, and also it just makes way more sense, honestly, like the way I'm working out a deal with the guy. He's a really good dude. I talked to him years ago when I was hunting down printers. I talked to like 200 printers about 5 years ago. And he was one of the people I talked to. The pricing it was almost as good as who we went with, but it just didn't work out. Didn't make sense at the time. So I figured, let me see if they're still doing what they're doing and talk to them. At this point, I wasn't thinking about printing comics here. I was thinking about having them print everything, but on a different paper stock. And eventually it became a couple weeks later, I'm going to print the newsprint interiors at home. And I wonder if they could still do the covers. So essentially sending out the covers is basically like sending out a double-sided 11x14 poster. So I said, could you fold this in half and just print double-sided and do the amounts I need? And the pricing and the time frame that he gave back to me was like, I couldn't justify even the coverage of like ink for the cost was incredible. And then like, let me go with them, and that'll make it easier on me.
And then when you get those back at that size, you'll have to trim them on your end, or he'll trim.
Because he'll give me back the sheets, and they'll have full bleed attached to them. So this way I can assemble them with the other pages, then trim them together, and then do all that. So this way everything is good and nice. And
so here's a question, just in the production process. When you trim the book, you'll actually attach the guts to the cover, staple it and everything, and then trim it. Is that how it goes?
So
or do you trim it before you staple it?
So how I'm doing it is like this. So it prints, then I'll fold each page. Each page gets assembled in the proper order, stapled, then trimmed.
Okay.
Yeah. Because what happens is like a lot of printers and a lot of the booklet making machines too, they'll put everything together and then fold the pages. So like nothing gets folded individually. And then what happens is you get a lot of the time with digital printing, you get that bowing by the spine. Because if you just even think about taking a stack of pages, folding them all in half, as opposed to you folded each individual and then put them together, it's a very different girth to the book. So, so assembling it like that, stapling it, and then trimming it. So when they're all stapled, it's just 3 cuts. It's just that cut at the side, the cut at the top, and the cut at the bottom. And then that's it. And I could do a whole bunch of them with that stack cutter and just make really quick work out of it. Especially if we're doing like runs of, at the most, it's 200. I could probably trim like 20 books or so at a time. It's just...
I was going to ask that.
That's pretty easy.
So if somebody came, like, so with newsprintcomics.com, right? Once the campaign's over and everything, is that where you will direct people to place orders? Is that Newsprint because it wouldn't be at Alterna. It'd be at that.
It'll have it'll be like another page on the Alterna site, but it'll just redirect you to that.
Right. That's Or they can just go straight to it. Now, as what if somebody's like, oh my God, this is awesome. 10,000 copies.
Not possible. Not happening.
So
honestly, I have to say too, that's not feasible for someone to want to do it like that with me. You should go to a commercial printer. Right. Even if you want 500 copies, you should really go to a commercial printer.
So then what is your, I guess, is your cutoff 200 then?
200.
It is. Oh, okay.
Because even then, and it's between 8 to 48 pages is what I feel comfortable with now. That might increase in the future, but for now, because I don't want books to, unless someone really just doesn't care, and they go, hey, look, I don't care if it bows out in the middle. You want to make a 64 pager for us? Because the staples will take up to like 72 pages.
Right.
You know, they say it'll take 20 sheets of paper with the staple, but I don't really trust that, you know, just with my experience. So I don't mind going up to like 72 signatures, you know, with the pages there for the book, which would be about, I don't know what the quick math is. I don't know, what is that, 16 or something? 16, 17, 18, something like that. Maybe 18. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I have to limit the amount that I put through for each job, because otherwise, you know, I could do 200 books and it'll take like 2 weeks or 3 weeks with the turnaround. But if I'm hammered with like 3 or 4 or 5 of those kinds of print runs, that's going to take a little longer. So it's going to be more like a 4-week turnaround or something for a book. So it's doing the 3, 4, 5, and then someone's going to be like, hey, you did 500 for so-and-so. Why don't you do 500 for me? It's just a whole, so it has to stay at 200 or less. So if someone's planning their campaign, what I suggest, go to the site. You see 200 on there. If you think you could sell 200 or you want to make 200 available, have it as a limited perk, and that you just do 200 of that. And if you find that you can really justify more of that, you could do a second printing or a third printing or whatever you may need to do. But if you're really going to print like 10,000 copies or something, you can actually go right to a cold set web press printer and get 10,000 copies done very affordably and very quickly, as opposed to going through me and having me hand make essentially each one for you. Yeah.
Now, here's a question with the 200. With the 200, is that a specific page count? Like 200, it's this many pages? Because like...
Yeah. So it'd be like 200, and you can choose either between 8 up to 48 pages, increments of 4 pages. Because each page...
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, for instance. Like if somebody wants 200 copies of 48 pages, right? That's obviously, you know, 200 times 48, whatever. But I guess I'm trying to word this right. If somebody were to come up and go, well, I want a 16-page book, can I get 400? See how it almost works out? Am I making sense? Because
I see what you mean, where you're, but it's still the amount of books that have to be assembled.
Right.
So,
okay.
Because then because the printing part of it is, you know, I just let the printer do its thing. So the printing part of it is like the least of my worries.
Is the printer quiet? So when it's running overnight, you can sleep?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet. And it's in the other room.
I mean, if you're burning 200 books for somebody, it's not like that. I assume it's not like that can be done in a 9 to 5. So it's going to be running.
I mean, you kind of can. You can have it run like about 6 hours or so a day. You know, it's a heavy duty type printer, could handle thousands of pages a month. And you know, so you could, it's got I can't do like leave it on for 24 hours straight. I wouldn't trust.
Well, no, that's what I meant. I didn't. And honestly, like I was joking before, but on the honest side, I have no idea if it's a type where you could say, well, I need 200 copies of this. I'll just set it and forget it. And then however long it takes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole thing with it, and
I mean, you probably want to monitor it anyhow. So,
oh yeah, definitely. Because you want to make sure that there's like consistency.
Well, I don't think it's a Ronco. You just don't set it and forget it.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
Wait, it's not a clap on, clap off feature?
Oh, hold
on, I got to stop printing. Clap off the printer.
Exactly. You know, I wish it was. That'd be great. But you know, maybe one day, who knows? But the thing is with the printer, I'm gonna have to, especially with the full size pages. Like I've got a couple of pages here, just little test prints. So this is like the full size test print of a first and last page, right? So this would have to print out a bunch and then let them dry. And I don't trust letting it dry more than even just the next day, and then print on the other side. So the mini comics will do a duplex system and automatically will print front and back.
Oh,
but the amount of Yeah, the amount of ink coverage on the bigger pages, I don't trust it to even sit there for like 20 seconds or even a minute and then have it scooped back in. The size of the page, the fragility of the paper, and the ink coverage. There's too many things that can go wrong having like an automatic duplex system. So it only adds a little bit more on my part of just, put it through and then have it print the other side. And it's nothing that's complicated. It'll be complicated maybe to somebody who like has no idea what this is, or when they look at this and they go, why do you put the first page there and the last page there? But then you flip it over, it's the second page and that's the second to last. But it's when you assemble the book, then you get everything that lines up properly.
So, and this is a legit question. I was thinking, I just say, because you're holding up like, the sample prints you did. If somebody was like, I don't know how it will look. If they were to say, if I send you one page of the book, a spread, right? Not double-sided, just one front spread. Is it something where you'd go, you know what? Send me that spread. I'll burn off one, because you can print just one and mail it to you. And then you can decide if you like that quality or not, or no.
That's a good option. I might consider that for when we
because I get like, how you
do
call
a
up any
copy.
printer
That's
and be
for
like,
sure.
send me samples, and they send you obviously whatever they have laying around, and it's a full book, which is nice. But a part of me, because I've done that, you've probably done that, Dennis worked at a printer, a part of me would rather be like, well, I love newsprint, and I know you could send me a sample of something you did on it, but if, like I said, if I sent you one or two pages, could you basically burn it off even front and back, just so I could see the opacity, like, oh, do I see through any little bit and whatnot? And then even if you say, yeah, I can do it, and then, give me a couple bucks for postage, or you just eat the postage, whatever, because it's possible future
it'll probably
work.
be just a couple bucks, because if like 20 people start coming along and they're like, print my file, do that, it can turn real hairy.
Yeah, it can. And that's why I'm saying, like, because basically at that point, it's one sheet of paper folded to comic size, right? And you throw it in like one of those cardboard envelopes so it doesn't get all effed up. And it's like, $1 to ship out. And you just say, sure, I'll do it. Send me $1 for shipping.
Sure. Yeah.
I think, to me, I think that's fair. And I would definitely do that myself because, like I said, I got samples, but it's not my stuff. So it's like,
because there's an option on the campaign where for $25 you can get your book printed in full size and mini size with the cover and everything too. So there's an option for that. Outside of the campaign, it'll be $25 per, because it's basically a proof.
Oh, right. Oh, 25 for one full copy of like a 20 page. Oh, yeah, that's a proof. Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's, but what you're saying, if someone is really curious about that, and they want to, I'll calculate it and see what I could put on there.
Yeah, I just think
that's a good idea too.
I think that would be an attractive option, saying, because, like, once again, I wouldn't need to see the full book. I would just need to see one page to see how the color works on that paper, because, not even, your books, some are black and white, some are full color, some have more rendering than the others do. And, if it was just a flat color job, I probably wouldn't even think twice about it. But, a lot of people are doing limited rendering or a lot of rendering, and they're like, I wonder what that would look like on newsprint. So, so Bernardo, and by the way, before we ask Joe's question, if you want to pull your campaign up and share the screen, then you can actually go through it more. Joe's asking what the turnaround is. So I guess if somebody places an order, because he didn't say quantity, for 200 books,
I would say just do it like per 100.
Well, okay. I mean, whatever.
But it also depends on the number of pages. If it's an 8-pager versus pager.
But I'm taking it a standard, I guess, 32 page comic. I get,
if it's like a 24-page book and it's like 100 copies they want, it only be like a couple of weeks. But then again, that also is compounded.
Yeah, Joe said per 100. So
that's compounded too. So I'm not going to be, maybe some people this sounds wrong, but it is what it is. I'm not going to be a full-fledged print shop. If I'm a
No, I
full-fledged
know.
print shop, yeah, I'm going to be shutting down Alterna. I'm not going to be creating comics anymore. And at that point in time, I created one problem to solve another problem and created more problems than I wanted to in the beginning. Like this is about creating a solution for a problem that I'm having, not creating more problems and eliminating the thing that I wanted to solve to begin with.
Oh, no,
So
no.
there'll be times where I'm completely just, the print shop is closed. You can't place an order. You know, you can still kind of get something through, but I'll let you know I'm not taking any orders until whatever month or something like that, because we have more than enough in the queue. But in terms, so that's why turnaround time, it really is kind of it's a very difficult thing to pin down if I'm not in the specific moment with, like, if someone placed an order right now, I don't have really any pending orders other than I got to make a couple alternative books. So I could say, okay, well, you know, let's say that 100 copies of a 24 pager, it'll be like a 2 to 3 week turnaround.
Right.
You know, but if I have like 10 or 15 of those ahead of them, then it's like, well, it's probably going to be like a 2-month turnaround.
So then it might be, and like, you know, and we can pull up, because this is Fund My Comic, right? Or is this the Newsprint site?
This is Fund My Comic.
Right.
Newsprintcomics.com will take you to that, but newsprintcomics.com, after this is done, will take you to an online order form, and then you can put all the stuff in there, and then I'll give you back your custom quote.
Yeah.
Right. What I was going to say. Okay. So then when you give back the custom quote, like, let's say, because, and this all goes back to what you were saying about turnaround time, because a lot of people, once this is all said and done, might not have heard what we're talking about. And I'm sure you've covered this on other streams and stuff as well. They might go to the site and go, oh, sweet, I'm going to place an order, 200 bucks. And I assume when they get the quote back, you'll also add into the quote at this, you know, point in time, with the amount of work we have,
this will be the,
because we're not a full-time print shop, 100%. Your turnaround time is going to be, not say unfortunately, but 3 months, right? Just so they can go, oh, I love the quote, but unfortunately I can't do 3 months.
Yeah, and that this way they could plan it out, because maybe that works for them, because they're thinking like, oh, okay, great, I don't have a crowdfunder ending until whatever, you know. But if they're thinking like, oh, I'll go with Pete for a monthly schedule on 100 copies of a book I want. Sure. That's really going to be something that's going to be difficult for me to pin down, because I don't know what any given situation that month is going to look like. Yeah, so it's that kind of thing where this is really great for indie creators who have like convention schedules. So they're at Artist Alley, they want to make a limited edition on a crowdfunder, or maybe they're a whole crowdfunder if they're, you know, an up and comer, or they don't need to justify 500 copies. They could do 100 to 200. You know, this is great for everybody in that realm. This is not something that's so streamlined that it's commercial level. It's an indie stuff, you know, because that's why with some people, I really want to make sure that I drill it home that if you are someone who's doing 500 copies or more, you really shouldn't even look at print on demand in general. You should really talk to a commercial printer, because you're going to get great pricing on that level. If you're doing 100 copies, though, a lot of commercial printers won't even bother taking something that low. A lot of them won't even bother taking something lower than 1,000, depending on who you're talking to. So if you're talking to like a web press printer, you're going to get really lucky if they even consider doing the job and it's less than 1,000 to 2,000 copies. But yeah, so with something like this, where if you're going with like offset or sheet fed, you know, do that. You'll have a better turnaround time. They're equipped for that. But if you want that newsprint, if you want like that book that looks like comics that used to be around all the time, and you're like, I'd really love to get like 100 copies of my book, have it as an exclusive edition on your campaign, maybe in addition to the other kind of book that you offer. Like a lot of people offer variant covers. You can offer a variant interior. You can offer a variant book kind of paper stock. So there's a different way to go about it and look at it that I think a lot of people maybe can find a way that this really fits for them. And that's where I'm coming in. I'm coming in for that person. I'm not really here to replace the commercial printer or whatever that may be. Yeah.
No, I
well,
think
also if an artist was like, you know, I think doing a 32-page sketchbook on newsprint would be kind of cool, because then it's a lower price point for the consumer.
Sure.
And if it's a sketchbook, it'd probably be black and white. So
yeah. Super Galactic Fantastic Dimension, love the name. That $25 for a proof is a great idea. Ordered one for myself through the campaign. See, great idea.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, and that's right there. That's the featured perk there.
Yeah, that's cool.
We got the $10 one. You can get just a random regular sample pack book from us, full size and mini as well.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, real quick, Sigma Comics for $5. Thanks, Sigma. Been a long time, buddy. Warm shout out to Dennis and Andy. Peter, I think you owe us an ad. Folks, Peter's a pioneer in comics. We all owe him a debt of gratitude. Go Alterna. Well, I'll let you guys fight that out in the cage.
Oh, we printed that out for you. We printed that out, bud. That was on the back cover of a Blood Realm issue, either 13 or 14. So, yeah. Okay. Now that debt has been paid.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Pick up the book.
HH is a great guy.
All right, so back to the sample pack. $10 gets you, because I'm sorry, $10 gets you one of the small and one of the regular size. That's what you said.
Yeah. So you get one of both.
Cool.
So what happens with that is that it's very similar to what I did the first time around. I just had like a poster that I just trimmed to size just to make a really poor cover. This was when I was printing on the old printer, and I put on draft mode just to see if stuff could actually go through. And I printed like one page of each Alterna book just to see how it would handle, how it would go through. And that's kind of what the sample book will be like. And the inside covers will have the price tables for the full size and the mini. And then the back cover will have file format information and stuff like that. So it's useful. It's not just get a book for paper stock purposes.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so this we got the price list also on the campaign, so you can see what a mini in full color or black and white would be. Again, there's price breaks from 25, 50, 100, 150, and 200. And then, so if you order like 28 copies, you're locked into whatever that price was at 25. If you order like 58, 70, whatever that, you're locked in at whatever the price is at 50. It doesn't mean you have to order 25 or you have to order 50. So I just want people to know that too.
Now, here's another question thrown your way.
Sure.
You know how, and the only reason I know this is because I've worked with a couple different printers since I've jumped into this crowdfunding field. Do you have a page template that you would send out going, this is the template you need to set your page up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. That'll be on the actual official Newsprint
site. I guess once they get the quote and they go, yeah, this is great, sign off on it, you'll go, fantastic, here's your template, or what, or maybe it's just downloadable off the site, whatever.
Yeah, and I'll give people the option of setting up multiple templates if they want. And what I mean by that is they can either set up the template that it's just the standard like one page at a time with the bleed, or they can set up a spread. And I'll let them know in the spread you want to keep in mind that the page process, you put that page, the odd numbered pages on the right, the even numbered pages on the left, and the first, last, second to last, third to last, etc., until you keep going through the page. And they could do it like that, and it would also mean that you reduce the bleed. So you would have your page. It would essentially look like this.
Right.
But you wouldn't have a full bleed that's toward the spine, that's toward the gutter. You would have it flush because there wouldn't be a bleed. You're not trimming that part off, but the bleed would be around where it's being trimmed.
Right.
So I'll have that option for people too if they feel like, okay, I'll put together my file like that. That makes it honestly easier for me. Even though like Adobe has stuff, you could put it through a booklet maker thing and everything else. It's still like a relatively imperfect process. Even when I'm doing test prints here, I'm like, yeah, it'll still kind of screw up every now and then. But if you put it through as a regular sheet, it'll print it a lot better. Like I think it's just too big of a file in some way, shape, or form. Even though I've got a pretty decent computer system, at least when it comes to this stuff. It'll still take way too long to do all that. So I'd have to break it up anyway. And that's fine. I could do all that on my end. There wouldn't be any problem with the printing. But it's just more so people understand what like a page spread really looks like. And if they want to set it up properly that way, they could still do that. So I'll have that template available. I'll have the regular template available, and it'll be
cool.
both in full size and mini size. So it'll be like 2 different templates for the 2 different sizes.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's helpful. I know, because I was just on the last core draft campaign for the. Well, actually, I take it back. I was going to say just for one of the books, but for actually the whole core draft book itself, the full color one, the black and white one, and the core draft the layouts book, I basically, looking at YouTube videos and stuff, learned how to use InDesign to put the book together myself for the printer. And there was some back and forth with the printer. They were like, okay, your guides are a little off here, blah, blah, blah. So, there's a little growing pains on my ends because it was my first time doing it. But I tell you, after it was all said and done, I was like, wow, InDesign, at least for that part of it, is a hell of a lot easier than I thought it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't as intimidating as I thought.
It's like with a lot of things too, you can use all kinds of different software to kind of get the same result with stuff, but some of them it's going to be an easier experience than others. But yeah, however they send in the files, if they have to, because that's the thing too, I'm not going to tell someone, look, you got to get this software and you got to make sure you embed your file. If you don't want to do that and you're fine with, the rasterization of the text, because it's still going to print great. I'm doing test prints on both, with both. And I'm getting in that second printer is going to have PostScript available. So I'm going to really see how much fun I can have with that. If it'll print like vector graphics a lot better. But it still prints, like, unless you unless you read comics with a printer loop, you're not gonna look at it and go, oh man, that printed horribly. You're just gonna read the comic and go, oh yeah, it came out really nice. Right. But it's one of those things where if someone sends me in a file that's like 100 DPI, and then I'll have to let them know, look, this isn't high resolution enough for print.
Oh yeah,
that's the problem. And I've seen that unfortunately happen where there's been crowdfunded books that I've received where it's really pixelated, like the art's pixelated, the text is pixelated.
Really?
And yeah, I've got 2 books that are like that from about 4 years ago, and it's obviously like the printer was just like, yeah, it's the files they sent, screw them.
Wow, yeah, no, I mean,
I know a red flag.
So like. And you guys can both correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I know people are like, talk about Marvel and DC. I can't remember which was requesting which DPI I'm going to say, but one of the company was like, you got to scan at 400 DPI for us. Okay. The other company was like, you got to scan at 600 DPI. Okay. And then I talked to printers, and printers are like, anything over 300 stupid. Send us 300. Yeah. That's what we want. You can basically, I was told you can scan it at 4, you can scan 6, you can scan it at 12, but when you send us the files, we want them at 300.
Yeah. I like scanning everything of mine at 12 just to know that it's like, all right, if I want to make a friggin' poster out of this thing and put a billboard up, I can.
Sure.
But it's like, for print, it's true. Anything that's honestly, I've found anything that's really going to be over 400, you're largely not going to notice it. With the text, sometimes I find that 600 will actually look really good with text, but you don't notice a damn difference on the art. Like you just don't, but it's like, if you send it at 400, you're perfectly fine. 300, you're perfectly fine. There's not really going to be, again, unless like some weirdo is reading it with like a magnifying glass, and I don't know, maybe someone does.
Dennis.
This is different though than the usual, because there is sometimes like the way it'll print, it'll be so jagged and pixelated from the rasterization that it is kind of jarring. And some printers, whatever they're doing with their system, or maybe how big you print the book, like if you're printing like an 8.5 by 11 and you've got rasterized text, you're probably going to notice that a lot more than if you printed standard size. And definitely you're going to notice it a lot more than if you printed mini comic size, which is like 5 by 7.5.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it really does depend on like how you're printing it. But yeah, 300 is a good rule of thumb. I'm going to suggest 400.
Sure.
And that's only because I've noticed a slight difference. It looks a little crisper with 400, but really past that point, It's
Yeah, I mean everything. I know everything
yeah,
I've done for I don't, I can't even tell you how long is. I scan my original art at 400, clean it up in Photoshop. Obviously, my colorist gets it at 400. Print
yeah.
size, because
It's still gonna
I
look
was
great.
talking to somebody and they didn't even know that. I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody I thought would have known this, that you know colorists, digital colors, of course. Well, even when they were hand colored on copy paper, color at print size, and they were like, "What? I thought they you sent them you scan your art full size, obviously whatever size you drew it, and you sent, and the colors colored that." I'm like, "No, colors color at print size. One, because how big the file is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The file at 11 by 17 or 10 by 15, whatever you're drawing at, would be huge. So the colors is like, no, high res print size."
Hey, Rich is asking from another perspective, what's the most likely means of shipping? USPS Priority, UPS, FedEx? He goes, I've used a good POD, but they only have one option for shipping, and it greatly adds to the price per unit. So yeah, that's another factor, is shipping. What do you think is going to be the best option?
I'm gonna be honestly playing it by ear and seeing what I could get away with. At Alterna, we ship everything media mail, and I honestly have not had a problem. Out of like the last time I had a problem was like 2018.
Wow.
I mean, I guess
So yeah,
I
but
was going to say, I guess one thing you could do is, or you could offer is, like a lot of, companies, not just printers, but companies in general do, is they have the drop down of the shipping options.
exactly, yeah,
So you
and
just
that's
do
what
that,
I'll
because
be
it's not,
offering.
at that
I'll be
point
letting
you're
people
saying,
know.
look,
Yep,
you
and I'll be
want,
letting people know, do you
yeah,
want this? Do you want that? Let me know how fast do you want it there once it's all done.
right.
But yeah, I think most people probably go between UPS or USPS, like Ground Advantage. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Ground Advantage and Priority are practically the same thing at this point. So
I know they really are. Even when you look at the option and it says, "Oh, send it this way. If it goes out today, it'll be there
yeah,
Friday," and you're like, "Wow, faster priority. It'll
yeah.
still be there
Man, I've
Friday."
sent things
What?
media mail. I've sent the craziest media mail story I have is I sent something media mail to California, right? And it got to there before I sent it priority to 2 towns away.
Yeah.
Because it went to, I'm in New Hampshire. The damn thing goes to New Jersey
Right.
and then comes up. I'm like, this dude's like 4 miles from me. They shipped it to Jersey. And the
Yeah.
person in California got it a week before the person 2 towns from me got it. I can't make heads or tails of it. And that's not the first time it's happened. There's someone that's an hour from me. I shipped it priority because they said it would be there the next day. I was like, it'd probably be there in 2 days. It took 2 weeks. It took 2
Oh my
weeks. I
God.
couldn't believe it.
That's not priority.
Yeah. So, and it's not the norm, but I've seen that kind of stuff happen way more often than not on these like upgraded services, especially with USPS. So yeah, it's the kind of thing, I'll give people an option. Here's the shipping at this level, here's the shipping at that level. And no matter what, it's going to be packaged correctly. I know how to package comics. I'm the one who personally, for those that don't know, I put together all the shipments at Alterna. I've probably shipped like over 150 to 200,000 shipments in 19 years. Especially since the 7 that we've been doing a lot more direct. So yeah, I'm pretty good.
No, that's cool. Cool. We'll keep running through that campaign.
But yeah, so on the campaign, you can easily do the math there for yourself. If you want to get like 100 copies full color of a 24-page mini, that's $1.70 a copy
Cool.
for the mini. And especially for people who know what like a print on demand kind of cost would be, you're going to be like, wow, that's way cheaper than whoever else is quoting you. If you want to get 100 copies of a full color, again, 24-pager, that'll be $2.30 a copy. So there's all kinds of pricing here you can have fun with and see and check out. So if you're interested in purchasing a print voucher, which you can do on the campaign, they don't expire. If you purchase multiple print vouchers, I'll combine them all for you. It'll work like a gift card, so the balance will carry. So it's not something where you're going to have to worry about, will this money, be of no use one day? Do I have to spend all of it now? Can I carry it over? You'll be perfectly fine with it. And what'll happen too is that if you do purchase a voucher on the campaign, it locks you into the pricing that you see on the campaign. So even if you print in 2 years and I've raised it a quarter a copy, you're locked into what you did when you got that voucher. Right. So that's another reason that if you do think you're going to purchase, pre-order your print run, getting a voucher is a good move. On the campaign too, for those that don't have print runs to do, we got some perks for you as well. So you can get a t-shirt with the bumper sticker. So the t-shirts, comics are better on newsprint. I think so. Whoever gets this t-shirt probably thinks so too. And if you get the bumper sticker, it says, "Keep your distance. I like to sniff old comics."
There you go.
So, let people know.
It's funny. Dennis has a bumper sticker on his car. It says the exact same thing, but instead of comics, it says women, old women.
There you go.
I'm like, hey, dude, that's kind of weird, but it's your car, not mine. I'd rather never drive in your car again. So.
To each their own. I'm sure that they have a certain bouquet.
Yeah.
So at the $35 mark, if you want to get a commission from me, a sketch card, and this is the only place I'm doing commissions at this point. I'm not going to do commissions the rest of the year because I'm going to have more than enough to do. I've got 15 left. There's 30 of them as an option to get. 15 of them are left. So if you want to get a $35 commission, you see some examples there.
Cool.
And then the vouchers. So it goes from 50 all the way up to 1,000 with various increments involved. So you can
cool.
really get your printing sorted out for a long time if you think that you're going to need to do that. And other than that, you see all the different examples of the books and whatnot, and my process of what I was doing and how I got onto there. And then also you can see not just the videos that are on there, but in the update section too, there's images of updates with the standard test printer.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's just some stuff that's on there too. But I
now,
can
do they have that Newsprint Smell?
They it's interesting because it acquires that over time.
Yeah. True.
Because of the I think it's like volatile compounds is what they call it. Because it absorbs various things. Like the paper is very absorbent, not just of ink, but also of the world around you. So depending on how you store them, depending on what kind of ink is used, depending on the kind of press that it runs through, it'll take on a certain smell. But I've noticed, honestly, it does have a certain smell. It doesn't have like that fine, like aged newsprint just yet because it's, literally new. Right off the press. It's new. But it does still have like that smell. You can get the whiff of like it's in there. It's just a little seed right now,
That's right. It has to grow.
Give it a few years and expose it to maybe some of the stuff you're cooking in your house. Let it absorb and soak in the smell. And, maybe it comes up with something different. But that's the thing with the newsprint. It's this stuff. I like it. To me, it's superior because we're also using archival ink, even though the paper itself, although I'm looking into acid-free newsprint, which kind of sounds like an oxymoron. But I got 3 different kinds of it arriving. So I'm very curious how that happens and how it happens to print. I'm still not 100% set on the paper stock I want to use because once I do decide that, I'm going to buy a massive amount of it, put it in storage, and that's going to help me keep prices low for a while too.
Right.
So the ink, it actually doesn't get on your fingers, and maybe some people like that. To me, it was always like you deal with it. That's what it is. But this, like, it doesn't matter. You can rub the page all day. It doesn't get on your fingers at all. But on the other,
that brings up an important point. If you take silly putty and you put that on there, is it going to pull up?
No, it will not. It will not. Yeah. So you're not going to have fun with the silly putty, but I'm finding that no one does that anymore anyway.
Well, Dennis does. Just saying. You wouldn't have asked.
That brings up a point. I have not seen silly putty in the stores in like probably 10 years.
You go to Dollar Tree. They got it there.
Do they? I was just going to say, if anybody knew if they still did, that's awesome. I've not seen that.
Yeah. It's It's funny because when we did the first Alterna Ween, I gave a piece of silly putty. Like I was ripping, like I bought a gigantic thing of silly putty, like a big brick of it. It was disgusting. And I ripped off pieces of it, put in a little plastic bag and gave it to people so they could have like silly putty. And not many people used it. They probably thought, what the heck did he just send to me? Because most people, I think, don't even realize, like, put some silly putty on a comic or, a lot of them anyway from back in the day. And you could really get that image to offset. And you literally are looking at the printing process of what happens when they have a plate and that ink goes to the page, But yeah, so these won't work with silly putty, but they also won't get on your fingers. So you don't have to worry about, you read through a book and then, you look disgusting by the end of it.
Right.
You won't have to worry about that happening.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I used to do that a lot with silly putty in my old comics and stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's fun. I can't say it's not, but it's one of those things where I don't think most people. I tried to use it as a selling point at one point in time, and people just thought like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I'm not going to do that, but hey, that's cool.
The younger ones I'm in the chat going, "What's silly putty?"
Yeah.
That and your pet rock or ooze.
It's a space age polymer.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that is cool. I'm really excited for you. I think this is a great thing that you're doing. Guys, I know a lot of you are going to be watching this later. We've got a couple hundred of you on live. Make sure you back it. For those watching on YouTube or Rumble, I left Peter's description in the bottom, and so you can just click on it and go to it. But hey, I think this is cool. Print your comic on newsprint. For any of you wanting to do mini comics, full-blown comics, in small runs, do that. Go get a voucher, help him get his equipment, because what an exciting adventure.
Yeah,
I know, totally.
Help me help you, because there's a lot of people out there that I'm seeing. They're always worried, how am I going to get this run? I just need 100 comics printed.
Right.
And that's going to be like $4 or $5 a piece. That's crazy. Like, I'm just trying to get a normal comic book printed.
Right.
And instead of doing that, you can cut your production cost in half or more and get them done on newsprint. So they also look really unique and throwback, but in the best way possible. And if you want, I got a couple preview pages I could share with you guys live on screen.
Oh, yeah.
And here, a public service announcement while you're pulling it up. I didn't mention, for those watching it on Twitter, X, all the links. Randy is awesome. He posts all the links in the replies on there. So no matter what format you're watching us on, you'll have the ability to click on the link and go visit Peter.
Appreciate that, Randy. Thank you. And so here's a page from King Cryptid number 9.
All right, hold on a second, Dennis. It's not like you don't have access to those tools.
Nope. I'm busy.
Lazy bastard. Oops, wrong one.
There
we go.
All right. So I wanted to do a test print on this just to see how the reds would come out, because I thought it was a little too flat with the reds with the commercial printer. And you actually can see, like, this is way closer to what I have on my end with the file than what the commercial printer had done. And you can really see, up close on it. Let me see if it'll,
Oh, yeah.
And this is on newsprint.
No, you can definitely see the tones in that red.
It's not all bleeding through like crazy to the point that it's ridiculous. So then here's an upcoming page from King Cryptid number 13. This is page 1 of that. This has more modern coloring, as people would say, but it handles it really well.
It does, and the blacks are nice and rich on it too.
Yeah.
Solid.
And then here's another one. This was hand colored. So I hand colored this page traditionally. And this is Bill Mouse's art. And this is for King Cryptid number 12. This is the first page of that.
Oh, that's cool. What did you use when you hand colored it?
Copic markers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then here's Alex Jovich's work. This has more of like a cartoony quality.
Yeah.
With more vibrant color to it.
That's cool.
And it's all coming out great. And this is another hand colored one. This is from King Cryptid number 10. This is the first page on that.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so these are all just like test prints of what I'm doing, and I'm just doing more test prints to get the settings down. I'm writing little notes and stuff on the page when I think that I like what's there, and that's kind of the stage I'm in right now. The next stage, once I have all that stuff and I have the paper stock sorted out, is going to be printing the test books, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So there's still more experimentation to do, but we're headed in the right direction. So that's a positive. And I'm not used to saying that about printing. I'm used to being very stressed out about printing and being disappointed every time. So this is quite the change for me. And I'm looking forward to just even assembling the books, because it gives me an opportunity to not be glued to the screen, have some music on or have a podcast on,
That's right.
a DNA show on, and just
there you
have
go.
that on the background. And I'm just assembling books, not just like glued to the screen, and that's why I got to wear these damn things from doing so much screen work. So that's a nice thing too. Stretch the legs, get moving, and hopefully live longer.
No, that's very cool. Randy Howell for $5 says, Andy, you have 4.2K subs. Aaron Lepresti has 4.19.
Oh, you surpassed Aaron finally. Congratulations.
I might have to drop into the chat on Graybeards today just to go, hey, buddy. Aaron, how's it going? Here's Andy in the chat.
Not that you'd ever rub it into poor.
Maybe I'll super chat him so he has to read it. That's a better idea. But I'll super chat him the cheapest, $1.99, because I'm cheap that way.
Yeah.
And tell him I want change back when I see him in person.
Well, guys, this is really cool. I did want to at least bring up, I'm sure most of the guys that watch this up front have seen it. Just want to mark the passing of Peter David. It was sad news. He did a lot of comic books that I was a fan of back in the day. And that was sad to hear. We knew he wasn't in the best of health, but still always sad news when somebody like that we've done a lot of reading with has passed away.
So what was your favorite Peter David run or series?
Me? Mine would be me, I'm an X-Men guy. He did a lot of X Factor stuff. And I loved his stuff on there. So I would probably have to say personally for that, but his Incredible Hulk run was just epic. So I collected a bunch of it, but not all of it. So whereas I'm a completist on the X title, so I would have to say X Factor, but I liked both of them.
Got anything there, Peter? Did you read Peter?
Yeah, I'm definitely fond of that Hulk run, and then I loved his work with Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure he did both Spectacular and Web at a certain point in time, and then X Factor stuff was always great.
Yeah.
I'll go different. I'll go with the reboot with Captain Marvel. I think that was Captain Marvel's kid back in the 90s.
Yeah, the Marvel side of things.
Yeah, because I'm such a Captain Marvel guy, and I like Chris Cross's artwork on it. I thought that was really cool. So I like the Hulk stuff too, but just to be a little different, because I knew you guys. Oh, Aquaman was good. Yep, being an Aquaman fan. I never worked with Peter on it, but a buddy of mine did. So yeah, Aquaman. Yeah, he had a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, prolific writer.
Yeah, big time. What
I really loved too was the him and McFarlane going at it at the conventions.
Oh, I know.
Like that
was just too funny going back and forth. I mean, Pete was kind of a curmudgeon type of guy. Even in his younger days, he was a curmudgeon type of guy. Kind of like Aaron. Guys, on our end, of course, we have Lilneth, Infernal Conflict. It is the new tale that we are weaving in the world of Cordrath, focusing just on Lilneth. She's the bad bitch succubus, and we're telling some of her story. We got the homage, however, where I went off of Vampirella #1. We're doing a new minifigure. It's a quick little 5-second video, but we've got still shots. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, there you go. That was nice. 2 seconds longer than Dennis is used to. We've got the main Lilith cover, and of course, new characters. And like I said, we're doing the new minifigure to go with the core draft one. So go sign up for it. It will be launching in June. And there you have it, guys. So go check that out. And of course, link for this is in the description below, as well as Peter's campaign for the newsprint printing. So go check that stuff out. And what are we seeing tomorrow night, Dennis? Every Thursday, you know, Peter, we see a movie and we review it that night. So we're seeing Friendship. Is that what it's? Friendship. Paul Rudd and some other guy, I can't remember his name. It looks like a dark comedy, and I like stuff like that. So
it's an A24 movie. So,
oh yeah, that's the one with is it Tim Robinson? Is that his name?
Yes, that's it.
Yep. Yeah, it's A24 puts out a lot of interesting movies. Most of them are really good. So, you know, we figured we would give that one a shot. It was between that or The Karate Kid. But man, after just finishing up Cobra Kai not too long ago, that went out on such a high note. I just don't see what this is going to do. I'd rather see an A24 movie this time around and see, because I think the week after that is, I think we got Ballerina, the new John Wick takeoff.
You know, the funny thing, if you haven't seen the trailer for Friendship, go watch it, because what I find funny about the trailer is not the stuff you're watching in the trailer, because I mean, there is some funny stuff, but the screen blurbs they put over it, stuff like the funniest movie ever. That's like literally what they're saying in different ways. But every time they put it up there, something dark is happening. And I'm like, did you guys not watch and you just put those over top? Because that is dark. Paul Taylor for $10. Thank you very much. Hail panel and chat. Are you guys still planning on doing a retro review of old movies, or has that gone the way of the dodo? It has not. We just have to basically start watching them. In fact, I'm glad you brought it up. I have one I just watched from 2009, so I know it's not super old, but it's still old. I don't know if, Dennis, have you ever seen a movie with Jamie Foxx and I think it's Gerard Butler, the dude from 300, called Law Abiding Citizen?
Yeah, I've seen that.
It rings a bell.
I want to say, the funny thing is, I heard on a podcast somebody was talking about it, and I'm like, huh. So I actually watched it over the weekend, and while I thought I've seen it, it felt totally new. Now, that could be because it's 17 years old, and I forgot a lot, or maybe I didn't see it, but I thought it was awesome. And I meant to tell you about it anyhow on the phone, Dennis. So now, since Paul brought it up, if you can, I watched it on TNT streaming.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find it. That would be a good one to review.
I don't know, but that's not retro.
No, it's 17 years old.
No, that is not retro. Retro something before the 90s or earlier.
All right, whatever.
God.
Here we go. Always got to be picky.
It's crazy to think 17 years before the year 2000, right? You know, it's like, wow, that feels way longer when you talk about that time frame than it feels when you think 17 years before now.
I know.
Weird. Yeah.
Like watching the movie Alien. Now that is retro because it's that old. We're actually watching it's a movie, believe it or not, we've never seen. The Mechanic. Jason.
Oh, that's a good one, man.
And I'm like, how have you? My wife's a huge Jason fan. Everything, and I'm like, you haven't seen this? She goes, oh my God, there's a movie I haven't seen. So that's on our docket tonight. Is The Mechanic?
How old is it?
Never seen it. Oh, 13.
I don't think I've seen. I don't know. I'd have to watch the trailer. So
yeah. So we do it, but I still wouldn't call that retro.
Well, the worst is when you talk, and then we'll end it. The worst is when you talk to like this younger Gen Z generation, and they refer to the late 90s as, oh my God, remember that happened towards the end of the last century? And you're like, just shut up.
Yes.
You know, you can say late 90s. You don't have to say end of the last century.
Yeah.
But we are watching, for those of you out there, we are watching Mobland and Murderbot. Both of them are awesome hits. They are worth watching on your local streaming service.
That's right. And there's a goofy one with Statham about a megalodon. Yeah, it's called The Meg.
Yeah,
based on a book of the same name. So there you go. Cool. Well, all right, guys. Watch out. Stay tuned. Like, subscribe for the review. We'll be back next week at 3:30. And until then, thanks for watching and take care, everybody.